Is it right? Is it right? Oh, good. Giving up, giving up, giving up. God. You can try. I'm gonna rock you. I'm gonna ride you. I'm gonna
If you could make your way down here to have a seat, or feel free to stay on the balcony. Welcome. Thanks for being with us this evening. And also thanks to everybody joining us remotely on Zoom. I'm Doug Binette, the acting director of the New York Tech Alliance and your host for this evening. So before we get started, I have a few items to cover. Please know that we record our events to share the experience with those unable to attend. Recordings are posted on NYTA's YouTube channel. You can subscribe there by going to youtube.com, NYTech Alliance /NYTech Alliance. For anyone joining us for the first time, the Tech Alliance is a nonprofit organization serving the New York tech community. At the core of our mission, we drive access, equity, and inclusion to make the New York tech ecosystem the most diverse and dynamic in the world. To learn more about us and how to engage, visit our website at nytech.org. And let's see, so how many of you are attending the meetup for the first time? Okay, nice, nice. So for all of you joining us for the first time, our meetups are all about the tech and the market opportunities each company is addressing. It's not about the business or revenue models. Those conversations can be had afterwards during networking or elsewhere. So during the Q&A, following each demo, please keep the questions focused on the tech and the problem or opportunity it's addressing. Otherwise, you're likely to get booed. Thanks to our annual sponsors who help make events like this one possible. Each has a presence on our website. You can learn more about them and how they support our community by going to nytech.org/sponsors. Special thanks to our annual sponsor in this evening's event space host, Northwestern Mutual, who has graciously invited us into their space. It's awesome. Big shout out to Sangeetha Ray, who leads the tech and customer experience here at Northwestern. She's and is an incredible DEI champion and within the company. Thank you, Sangeetha, for being such a great partner. Also, thanks to Stacy Zaha, Ann Dolan, Nick Sterin, Andy Perez. Thank you all for your help and support. We love you guys. Where are you guys? Are you in there? Say hello. There's Stacy. Our next upcoming event is on Thursday, March 30 at 12 noon Eastern time. It's our Founder Spotlight hosted by Georgie Ann Gettin, founder and CEO of GSD Solutions and a New York Tech Alliance board member. Our guest will be Cheryl Potts, founder of Clear Cut Royalty. It's a software development firm and platform for self-released artists, songwriters, producers, record labels, and music publishers to administer their own publishing and sound recordings. That's a lot. Okay. To learn more, please visit nytech.org/our_events. And lastly, we love and welcome support to help us produce and deliver our programming. 3 ways you can help include Add a donation when you RSVP to one of our events, become an individual or corporate member, or simply make a small donation. You can do so by going to nitech.org/support_NYTA. Okay, I'd first like to introduce Fred Jean-Bouc-Swarin. Yes? Okay, all right. Chief Architect and Vice President here at Northwestern Mutual to say hello to everybody. Hey, Fred. Yes.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everyone from the New York Tech Alliance community for joining us. It's great to be able to host you all here. For those who don't know, we have been a partner of the Tech Alliance for almost a year now. We're proud to say that this is the third meetup we've hosted, so we're excited. The reason why one of the use this thing.
There you go.
Nice, safest bet. Okay, so one of the reasons, yes, I know, mission accomplished. Learn how to use a microphone. But one of the reasons why the partnership with the New York Tech Alliance is so important to us is, we're part of the tech community here. We have a real vested interest in helping to support a thriving tech ecosystem, helping folks to get opportunities, networking opportunities, mentorship opportunities, participate in events. It's really important to us at Northwestern Mutual. And I know it's important to North Tech Alliance, that's why they're there. So I think it's a really effective partnership together. And that's one of the reasons why we're here too today to talk about one of the events. And as I was sort of looking through the list of folks and startups that were presenting today, I would say I was super impressed by the mission of all these startups, like the innovative products and solutions putting forward to drive a more inclusive world, more inclusive environment for folks, creating more accessibility. And beyond the products, it's like the whys, the stories behind the founders, amazing, like super inspirational to have folks, folks who see a problem, get up, come up with a good solution, drive the action. It's a ton of work to get a startup up and off the ground, and I'm super impressed with the startups that are going to present today and kind of the work that I've seen. For me personally, so before I joined Northwestern Mutual, I actually used to pretty much work at startups. So I've done my own startup. Didn't work out super well, but it was a fun experience. Worked out in California. I joined Northwestern Mutual through a startup. I was actually working at LearnVest here in New York, which was acquired, and how we actually got the New York campus. And one of the things that, I've learned from this, from my sort of experience transition from a startup into sort of an enterprise, are the lessons you learn at startups, like the sort of like wearing multiple hats, the like not having a lot of resources, trying to solve problems, being super creative in how you get things done. Which I think has served me super well. So the one thing I love to say about startups is not only are they building great products to help sort of change the world, better the world, they're building sort of leaders to help change the world as well, right? At companies big or small. So with that, I do want to welcome everyone. Everyone has a wonderful evening tonight. I would love to see how many Northwestern Mutual colleagues are here. How many NM folks here? Nice.
Wow.
Awesome. Great to see you all. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Doug.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it. Okay, so with that, let's jump into the demos. Each company will have up to 10 minutes total to demo their tech or deliver their presentation. Audience Q&A and to make an ask of the community and or an offer. And with us this evening to guest host and present our amazing cast of demoers, I'm honored to welcome Mariella Paulino-Peralta, founder of Project Hearing and Advocacy and Social Media Manager at AudioEye. Hey, Mariella.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to be with all of you today. So my name is Mariella Paulino-Peralta, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story and how I got started in the assistive technology disability space. I came to New York City at the age of 7 from the Dominican Republic. A few months after arriving in New York City, I contracted something called bacterial meningitis, actually on March 22nd, 1987. And so what happened was the bacterial meningitis made me both deaf and with walking difficulties. what ended up happening is that I have an incredible family. And my mom wanted to make sure that my disability didn't come to define my life. And she wanted to focus on figuring out ways that I could redefine what it meant to be a woman with a disability, living her absolute best life. I went on to college, went to NYU, where I actually met Quemuel, who will be presenting today, and have lived a very full life. In that journey, I actually went over to Washington, D.C. to work for the federal government, with the Department of Defense specifically. And one day I was just on the road in Washington, D.C., speeding, going a little bit over the speed limit. I was late for something, okay? And the thing is that Washington, D.C., Virginia, if you are speeding, you will get pulled over. There's no negotiation there. It's going to happen. And I got pulled over. This was my very first time getting pulled over, but I had practiced with my mom, put my head at 3 at night, and waited. The officer started giving me commands over the loudspeaker. As a person with a hearing disability who uses a cochlear implant to hear, those announcements to me sounded like, whoa, 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 whoa. I couldn't make out what he was saying. What ended up happening is that the situation escalated. By the time the officer left his vehicle to come over to my window, I noticed looking at my rearview mirror that his hand was on the holster as he approached my car. This was also during the beginning of the Black Lives Matter situation. So a lot of anxiety. What happened was when the officer came over to my window, he knocked. I said, "Officer, I'm really sorry. I have a hearing disability," and showed him my hearing equipment. When I did that, the situation de-escalated. At the end of it all, this dashing smile and good conversation, the officer let me off with a warning. But he didn't, he actually said, you really need to figure out what you're going to do about this hearing disability. Could have escalated. And I asked him, well, what do you suggest I do? He said, that's not my problem. Figure it out. Not exactly what I was expecting to hear, but a valid response. I decided to pursue my master's degree at Georgetown University, trying to understand specifically how someone with a hearing disability communicates specifically with a police officer. And what I discovered from my research is that you actually have 6 seconds for a police officer to make all of these assumptions about you. Why are you speeding? Do you have a gun in your car? Do you have a National Rifle Association sticker? All of these assumptions about who you are happen within the first 6 seconds. And so my master's thesis was all about that. And what I came up with was a really simple solution. A sticker in the back of my car that says, deaf driver. So obvious, but nobody had come up with that idea before. And so one idea led to another idea, which led to another idea, which led to another conversation. And from so many conversations, I realized that those problems that I was having were not problems that were individual, but were actually community problems, social problems that we were having as a community of people with hearing disabilities. And from that, Project Hearing was born. In Project Hearing, I document my life as a person with a hearing disability, talk about best practices, technology, tools, resources for people within the community of people with hearing disabilities. So I have been working on this project for about, oh my God, it's been a minute. But I've been working on this project for a couple of years now. We actually have a conference coming up called the A11Y conference, where we're going to be talking about everything relating to hearing disability. And it's so incredible for me to be here with all of you, because my journey in the tech space actually began right here at the New York Tech Meetup. It was actually the very first tech meetup that I went to when I came back from DC. So this is coming full circle ×2 for me, because this is the second assistive technology meetup that I'm hosting. So it's amazing to be here with all of you and to know that all of you care about assistive technology. So with that said, we are here to learn. I want all of you to leave the room today with knowledge, resources, feeling empowered to make the internet to make physical spaces more accessible and to be better allies to people with disabilities. So that is my goal. Now I am going to get us started with this party. And I have the incredible honor of presenting Quemuel Arroyo, who is one of my colleagues from NYU. He is actually the Chief Accessibility Officer for the MTA, and he was actually one of the very first presenters the first time we hosted the meetup. So I am thrilled to bring him up.
Thank you so much, Mariella, for that. And thank you for having me back, New York Tech Alliance and Northwestern Mutual for hosting us. Folks, my name is Quemuel Arroyo, and it is truly a pleasure to be here with you all today. I have the pleasure to serve as the MTA's very first Chief Accessibility Officer. Some of you might have heard about the MTA. It's the biggest transportation organization in all of North America. Prior to COVID, we were moving 7.5 million people a day. Today, about 3.54 million people per day. And I get to talk about accessibility there. In this current capital plan, which is about $55 billion big, we have earmarked $5.2 billion for accessibility. And this is what most people think about what we do. This is an active project that's happening right now in the Bronx. We are making 149th Street, Hostos College accessible. And this project would have taken years back in the day with technology, with innovative design, with a design build. We're doing it in one capital plan. We are so excited that this station is about to open in the Bronx. It'll totally be a game changer for those students at Hostos, for those community members who live in the South Bronx, and for everyone who comes to visit the great borough of the Bronx. I am going to be speaking to you all a lot more about accessibility specifically and how we are leveraging technology to do not only projects like these in more efficient and cost-effective manner, but how we're making them more inclusive for everyone. In New York City, there is an estimated 1 million New Yorkers with disabilities. Now that number is very low ball because that's people who have self-identified as New Yorkers with disabilities. We expect it to be a lot bigger than that. In the MTA, we are designing assets like bigger elevators with two-way communications for someone like Mariella, who may be having a hard time hearing or speaking, could communicate with our agents when they don't feel safe, when there's something going on in an elevator via text, so that they don't have to rely on hearing and speaking alone. So that's a new innovation at the MTA. Very first elevators just opened up on 34th Street. That's what you're seeing there with this type of feature, two-way communicators. And that's what we're spending a lot of those money on. But beyond that, I am so proud to announce that this year, actually this month, we will have the very first new turnstile at the MTA. Forever, we've been seeing the entrances to that system. Now, someone with a disability like myself really struggles to get through those doors. Tourists, parents, mothers, dads with strollers, and of course, our tourists with luggage can never get through those turnstiles. So the old system used to be getting someone to open that door for you and for you to fare evade and enter through there with your luggage. But we're changing that. We will be piloting these wide out gates and using technology. We're going to learn about our customers. We're going to learn about what type of users comes through there. There's a lot of sensors in these gates that we are installing here. And I'm very proud to say that accessibility is the prism which we are looking at these new innovations in our systems to test the New York environment, to test what a new wide out gate, a new fare rate design could look like for the New York environment, and try to get the industry to design something that works for us here. Beyond that, we have gone digital for our fare payment system. Those of you who use the MTA, thank you for being our customers, have probably already started using Omni. Omni is a great system. Tokens were fun, but didn't quite get us there. Metro cards were cool, but really excluded a lot of people. I think about one of my friends, Christina, who doesn't have the use of her arms, so she was never able to drop a token or swipe a Metro card. With Omni, she can swipe her purse, put her purse over a reader, and come right in, pay her fare, and enter the subway system. Beyond that, people with disabilities at large have been welcome to Omni. Particularly, what you see there on the bottom left is a picture of one of our reduced fare seniors. Our aging New Yorkers, who there was a fallacy that said that people, aging New Yorkers did not leverage technology. Well, that's not true anymore. Now we know that they are the only customers left that matter. to engage with people. So they actually are using mobile devices to move around New York City. They're using their mobile devices to pay for their fare at the MTA. The MTA is the first transit system in North America, maybe in the world, that have opened up a digital wallet for reduced fare aging population to pay their fares in their transit systems. So the reduced fare customers are currently able to tap just like everybody else and reap the benefits that Omni provides, like those free trips after your 12 tap here in our system. Also, we are doing the same this year for our paratransit customers. Just to give you a scale of the numbers of the customers who use this system, there are over 1.2 million New Yorkers in our reduced fare program, and over 100,000 people registered in paratransit who are now also going to be able to pay their fare in their paratransit vehicles with a digital wallet. Coin and bills are going away. I know, Sean, I agree with you. But really, this is what the new wave of accessibility looks like at the MTA, really leveraging technology to provide tools that welcome all our riders, that give everybody an equal opportunity to ride the system. Beyond that, we are also expanding a new wayfinding a system that we've installed, that we tested at J Street Metro Tech. We're actually expanding it right now. If any of y'all go to 23rd Street, that entire corridor has been outfitted. Those buses have been outfitted with QR codes that allow a low vision blind New Yorker to know exactly where they're located and the arrival of the next bus. We are expanding that to the Upper West Side with some grants from one of our state senators. And we're outfitting 20 subway stations in the Upper West Side and all the buses in that vicinity with this new wayfinding solution that we're also leveraging to engage with our limited English proficiency communities, to speak to people who ride our buses and use our transit systems in other languages, which has always been something that we couldn't quite crack. Well, technology is giving us an opportunity to do that. So I'm really excited about those three things. And I was told to be brief and give you something hot and something new. There you have it, folks. This is what innovations coming from the MTAs looks like for all our riders. And I have one ask for all of you, and that is ride the transit system. It is the fastest way to move around New York City, definitely the most entertaining.
I'm going to pass the catch box for that individual who has a question for you.
Questions.
Who wants to catch? We got to take her. Kevin.
Hello, nice box. So that's amazing. I love the implementations of all of this, and I guess I'm kind of curious, what is the biggest kind of evolution for smarter cities that you predict in the next 3-5 years?
The biggest evolution for smart cities in the next 3 to 5 years. So I said to you that in this budget right now, the MTA has allocated $5.2 billion to enhance accessibility. That would not have happened if they hadn't hired a chief accessibility officer. Unfortunately, it took them all these years to do so. And I think the biggest innovation is going to be employing more people with disabilities. I myself am a New Yorker with a disability, and I have so much to contribute, right? But before the pandemic, we saw people with disabilities longing, begging to be employed because they had something to contribute. And companies didn't see that as an asset. That's all changed because now we see that we can actually work from home. And I think that's the biggest innovation that's going to change the game, employing more people with disabilities who have something to contribute.
Anybody?
Another question?
Oh, can you hear me? All right, cool. Yeah, that's very interesting. I know earlier you said that you were gathering data from your customers to understand exactly who was using these systems. And I was just curious, how would you utilize that data? Is that to, for example, let's say you find that a lot of people have been using the tap payments, right? Like you said, your friend that had no access to use her arms, right? She was using that tap payments. So are you collecting data like that, understanding what disabilities people have in order to make implementations that would further help people with those disabilities, or was it something else?
No, so you're right on the money. So we're collecting data to understand how people are utilizing these innovations that we're testing, that we're putting out there. but I'm also collecting information on what's missing. I always tell people that I don't know what I don't know. And my best testers, my best informants are our writers. And I am engaging with our customers. Our new president of New York City Transit, Richard David, likes to say that our customer delivery is our North Star. And our customers are our eyes and ears. So I'm collecting information from you all. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what change you want to see happen, and let me make that a reality for you.
More elevators.
It's a very interesting presentation. So I want to follow up with on the previous question, which is, what do you think is the biggest unaddressed accessibility issue right now in NYTA?
That's a really great question. Thanks for an easy one. Gosh, unaddressed. Okay, so I'll be honest, and I'll say this is something that every transit system in the world struggles with. Cognitive disabilities are a real struggle for us to really understand, primarily because it is so individual. We run a system, the largest system in North America, and I have 4 million customers to worry about every day. A cognitive disability is very individualized, and it changes from person to person. So it's really hard for me to come up with systemic solutions that are going to be that silver bullet. We are learning, we are understanding about easy digestible information. We're understanding how to not overload customers with information and data, and simplifying things to make all people be able to navigate the system. But if I say that there's one area that's still a bit gray and obtuse for all of us in transportation, it's creating a system that's more welcoming and environmental for cognitively impaired individuals.
Thank you.
I think.
All right. Testing. Hey, Q. I wanted to add to that because I think one of the things, and it's a question, I promise. How do you think we can encourage training and cultural shifts within, because I will tell you, there could be all the elevators in the world and I still won't use the subway because I feel like I'm being squished or I might die. I had a situation where my crossbody bag came like sliding down. I'm holding 2 ski poles. It almost got caught in the door. And so how do we make sure that there's a culture there where people, because in a bus system, for example, we know the blue section is for disability. People might grumble, but they do wait and they do say, okay, we've got to wait till this person gets on. There's a protocol. How can we make sure that there's training, even if there are the elevators, that, people are respectful? Because I feel like it's like a different city when I'm down underground. So that's my question.
I hear you. Thank you so much for your question, Sean. New York City sees on average 60 million visitors a year. This year, we're expecting to see 65 million people. That's 65 million people in addition to the 8.5 million people who live here, in addition to the 3 million or so that come in every day from the tri-state area. So what you're really referring to is cultural sensitivity. And no matter how much training I provide, and trust me, I spend tens of millions of dollars every year training my 70,000 employees. But what you're really speaking to is how do you sensitize the average rider and other people in the system? And that's quite hard, right? But actually we are coming out with we are revamping a campaign that we ran back in 2018 that really speaks about look out for one another. Like, let's take care of one another. Let's be decent human beings, don't mansplain. That's not cool. Give up the seat if someone needs it. And it's really difficult. I don't think any transit system has really cracked that nut yet, because what you're speaking to goes beyond our ability to regulate and to enforce, because you can't enforce human kindness or decency. But we are going to bring back those campaigns about do the right thing, look out for one another, and we'll see how that goes. Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
One of the most powerful quotes that Quemuel has shared with me was, progress moves at the speed of trust. And I have held onto that for my entire career. So my hope is that we make progress and that we shall connect with people with disabilities, hire people with disabilities within your organization. So we started off really strong talking about physical accessibility. We're now going to venture and travel through time and space into the digital space. And I am very thrilled to introduce RJ Heller. So full disclosure, I am the current advocacy and social media manager at AudioEye. So I know everything he's going to be talking about today. But coming up, RJ.
Can you hear me on this one still?
Thank you, Mariella. I appreciate it. And also thank you to Northwestern equals to remember Oakland as well as care so much and are also speaking not just about technology, but specifically about people with disabilities and how do we create better access. So switch this over to my screen, I think. Eventually. While we're doing that, I can introduce myself. So I'm RJ Heller. I'm our VP of Strategic Partnerships at AudioEye. I've been in the accessibility space for about 9 years. And actually, I didn't realize that about you because my journey with accessibility also started in Washington, D.C. as well. When I was doing some advocacy work and I was working on the Hill, I was working for a congressman in California. We were working on specific projects similar to accessibility. And I met the original CEO of AudioEye who had a degenerative eye disease. And he was working with the time he had to be able to make content online accessible and be able to have that continue into the future. So that was something I hadn't heard anything about before. It's about 10 years ago, I was really into technology and I thought we're at a precipice of being able to help people with disabilities as well as leveraging technologies. That's awesome and that's incredible. And I haven't looked back. So that's all I've done since then. And what I can say it's awesome about AudioEye is since the beginning, our mission's been the same, and it's eradicate all barriers to digital accessibility. So what do we mean by that? Well, people with disabilities use assistive technology to access things online. I think half the people in this room are very familiar with this. The other half, this might be a little bit newer. And what I mean by using technology, I don't mean, hey, if you go to a website, you can change contrast. We're saying they're going to use their own tools like screen readers. So WindowEye's Dragon, Siri on your iPhone, as Siri's going to engage with content online. The website has to be coded in a way that those tools can interact with it. So we at AudioEye have developed a JavaScript-based software as a service that leverages the completeness of technology or the speed that technology provides us with the completeness of human touch and manual testing. Because in the accessibility space, you need to have manual testing to be able to complete and make sure that websites are going to be compliant. So what we offer is our end-to-end service that does help the end user, but what we are actually providing it for is website providers, agencies, and businesses to make sure that their content online is always going to be completely compliant. So how does this work from a technology perspective? We're going to give you a line of JavaScript that you're going to embed in the universal footer of your page. We're going to automatically deliver a lot of the changes that we know, if then statements, if it's something that we can already identify that can be compliant based on the 80 tests that we run with automation delivered. We can deliver that. And if it's something that requires manual testing, we'll be notified of that. And then we deliver those same changes back to the website at the DOM level asynchronously. So we're not having a marginal impact to your web page as far as load time and load speed. So all that together, what does this look like in practice? I will show you. So you sign up, you're a customer of AudioEye. So say you're a website builder or you're a website owner. What you're going to have is all your sites that are on here. These are our demo sites that we have in our system. You can go view at a high level all of the sites that you have. So you can see your accessibility score for one of your sites. So for example, this one right here is a 90 out of 100. That's really good. The idea of being 100 out of 100 in complete accessibility, that's a myth. We're always trying to get people as close as possible. But as you know, websites are dynamic. They're constantly changing. So we want to keep you as up to date as possible to make sure you're providing the best service to your end users while also making sure we're not slowing down your development cycles and you're able to push out content that's very pretty and beautiful and represents your brand in a positive way. So you can see here, I'll click into one of this. So what you see is this is our demo portal. It has our testing suite and everything. So we have AudioEye running on one of these sites on our demo site. You can see the accessibility score. So without AudioEye on it, we deliver an accessibility score, or we show an accessibility score of 81. With our AudioEye remediation being delivered, we see it's at a 90. So that's just with our automated fixes on the site. That's really high. So with Resolved, just based on automation, we can identify 69% of the errors and fix those. Now, what about the other 31%? Those are things that we can identify that need to be fixed. However, technology is not in a space right now where we can automatically deliver those changes to your site. So for example, something like an alt text on an image. Anyone that's worked with accessibility, that's generally the most common thing they're used to. So we can identify when we look at an image, hey, is that image exist? Is it in the right spot? Is there the right number of characters describing that image? But just using image recognition software, we can't say, hey, this is an image of a football. We write down, this is an image of a baseball. That's something we flag that we're gonna have to go back and manual test and confirm that it's done properly. We still deliver those manual fixes to your site via our script. So you don't have to go through and do it at the source, but it is the manual checking that we provide. We have a team of over 50 people with disabilities, our Alliance community. They're over there authoring, making the changes, and also we have a lot of people on staff that are certified JAWS experts and different AT testers as well. So that's how we're able to get your site. And one quick thing on the score, when we talk about 90, that score is weighted both by severity and on the site how big of a blocker it is. So we think about an e-commerce website, that site could be pristine on everything except the checkout button. The checkout button doesn't work, you're not going to make any money on your e-commerce sites. That might not be accessible at all. So that's going to drop the score down to like a 40 or something. That's going to notify you as something you need to fix, or we'll work together with you to make sure that it's always as compliant as possible. So as I just kind of walk through some of these other ways you can cut up the data and have it together, we can do issues fixed by severity if you want to sort it that way, top fixes applied to site, or you can go straight into the reporting. So within our portal, you can send things out to people on your team to share the report directly to the page, or if you want to make these changes at the source level, we highly encourage that. We don't want to take away your ability to do that. So you can download this as a CSV and you can have your team doing it that way as well. Because with CI/CD integration and SLDC life cycles, as we build things out, what we want to be able to do is move it upstream if you want to as well. So we can come say, hey, where are you and what do you want to do with accessibility? And how do we fit into what you want to do? Because different organizations want to approach things in different ways. And I'm going to quickly show through, if we want to go through and say one of these images, let's say an image isn't marked as decorative, we can see the issue description, abilities affected, impact, the resolution, where in the web content accessibility guidelines that actually comes from. And an important thing about WCAG, when people hear WCAG, WCAG, that system, all that's saying is there's 4 faucets within WCAG: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So if you think about what that means, if I'm navigating a website and I'm coming to the site, can I perceive what's on the page? I can identify that things are there. Great. Operable. So I found the button that I'm looking for. Can I engage with it? Yes. So I perceived it, found it. Now I can operate it. Cool. Understandable. Now when I engage with that, I understand what I'm doing when I'm engaging. And then finally, robust. I'm using it, whether I'm using Braille display, Braille output, I'm using Siri, WindowWise, whatever system I'm using is going to work together where it's browser agnostic, platform agnostic together. So that's what WCAG means. That's kind of unraveling that mystery there. And if we go to pages affected, we can see on the page this is a kind of fake furniture source site that we have done up for demos. But right here, it'll show where on the page the issue is. So if your team wants to go through and fix it at the source, they can. We have suggestions for that, or you can just identify where on the page the issues are. But also, because we're a technology company first, we've provided those fixes at the DOM level if that's what you're looking for. So it's really meeting you where you are as a company and making sure those things are together. And the last thing I'll show you, as far as, I won't go over the legal and different things like that, but what I will talk about is the installation. If you want to install it directly, or you're going to provide it to one of your clients to do that, install button there. You can use the Google Tag Manager. We have specified instructions based on what kind of platforms and systems that you're using. And that's the install. So the final thing I'll show you, and this is what most people understand, this is a live site with one of our clients. This is the toolbar that's kind of the nice to have afterwards, which is the website's already compliant. Anyone can access it using their own tools. However, if you're someone who maybe left your glasses at home, you have a temporary disability, or you just want the ability to be able to make something larger and it's not that big a blocker for you in the day-to-day, you can go through and use our toolbar to change contrast. You can stop automation. One of my favorite to call out is the change in font. which is the dyslexic font, which I think is kind of interesting. A lot of people don't know it exists, where you can see words are weighted or letters are weighted heavier on the bottom, and you can see that zeros have a dot in them as compared to an O, so you can decipher different things with your brain as you're pulling things together. So that's kind of ties into what we're talking about the MTA as well. Universal design is if we're making something better for one group of people, generally for the group as a whole, everyone's going to have a better experience. Something like that as well. We talk about universal design, like doors that open automatically when you walk into Target or wherever, helps people with disabilities, helps you as well when you're carrying bags out. So websites in the same way. If we can make it better for people with disabilities, it's going to benefit everyone as well. So as a whole, that's AudioEye. Ask for us is we're always hiring. We're looking for new talent, new people, people with disabilities that would like to join our team as well. Always love that. And as far as something we give, if anyone wants a free manual scan of their site, so anyone can do the automated one, but if anyone emails either me or Mariella or anyone AudioEye and just say you heard from this tech meetup, we'll actually do a full manual scan of your site and deliver that to you as well as you have. So again, really appreciate the time. I'm glad we were invited to be here. Mariella for putting this on and hosting, not putting it on, but hosting. Yeah, excited. Thanks, guys.
With better aim this time. Oh, I don't know if I can throw it that far, but the person in the green started.
My question is how to measure the success for implement the accessibility.
How to
Measure the success,
sure at an organization level or specifically
organizational level. Maybe.
right. So there's a couple different ways. A, you can measure success kind of empirically using our dashboard accessibility site score, right? So that's where you're showing how compliant. So you run those tests. Every time someone visits a page on your site, we rescan that page, and that's how we're identifying in real time how compliant and accessible it is. So for identifying errors, that's going to drop down. So that's an empirical way to do it. In a holistic way, we also partner with your team with a training level, and I don't want to get too much into business side of it, but we'll work roadmaps to train leadership and things like that as well. So we make sure you have tangible goals that move forward.
Not a question, but just a suggestion. As a product guy, it would be super cool if that list of things that need to be done for my site automatically put in tickets in Jira and tag so that I can go back and see how many improvements I've made over time, as well as have low point velocity stories that any developer pick up and just get done.
If you'll believe it, you're not the first person to suggest that. And that's like on our roadmap, we are right there with that Jira integration. So that should be done soon. But yeah, that's definitely something we're working on. That's great.
Similar question. Do you have developer tools?
Yes. So we have in our larger engagement. So what we kind of talked about here is standard. We have like 80,000 clients. Most of them just want this level. But our bigger engagement in teams, we can open up more and have those developer tools like the on-site scanner that I showed. You can go through and identify things in the page there. And then we also have API integrations as well.
What I meant is more at an earlier stage of the process. Like, let's say, okay, I'm an engineer.
Sure.
I'm building out a site. I don't want to wait until I've deployed the site to actually see that my code isn't accessible. I want to see it like in my IDE or at the code scan level at an earlier stage in the process. You'd have something like that could help me so I don't have to constantly push and deploy.
Oh, definitely. You can put it in a dev environment. You can do it things like that.
I mean, like at like the editor level or at like,
oh, really? Yeah, you can do it at the edit. We can do it much earlier in the process than as you roll things out, you're rolling them out compliant. So that's kind of, we talked about using the testing side of things rather than waiting for the JavaScript to deploy them. If you want to move it more upstream, we have the ability to move things upstream and give you access to stuff on that side.
That's cool.
Cool. Good cat.
Flatter back. Okay, thank you so much, RJ.
Thank you.
Alrighty, the next person we have coming up on the stage is going to be Jane Lendingham. So Jane Lendingham is going to talk to you about a piece of technology that is revolutionary even to this day. The cochlear implant is the only piece of technology that is able to restore a sense. Okay, ready?
I think so.
There we go.
So good evening, everyone. I think our technology is maybe a little bit different than what you're used to hearing about. As Mariella mentioned, my name is Jane Lendingham, and I'm the cochlear implant consumer specialist for New York and New Jersey. So this is just a little bit about Advanced Bionics. As you can see, Advanced Bionics is located out in Valencia, California. That's where all of the manufacturing for our cochlear implant system takes place. In 2009, we were lucky to join partnership with Phonak. I'm not sure, you can raise your hand if anyone's familiar with Phonak. They happen to be the company that, a very large hearing aid company. So together, we have years and years of technology that we combine together. We're both owned under the umbrella of Sonova, which is located out in Switzerland. Unfortunately, I'm in New Jersey and I haven't been out to visit their company in Switzerland yet, maybe one day. So I'm going to give you just a few facts about hearing loss. There are about 800 million people globally who show or have the effects of hearing loss. In the United States alone, we have about 48 million people, and that's about 20% of our population, which is an awful lot of people who have hearing loss. So when we think about hearing loss, it has an effect on that individual in many different ways. To begin with, it affects their job, their financial earnings. When I first started working for Advanced Bionics, I couldn't believe how many adults I met who told me that they had to leave their jobs because they couldn't communicate during meetings, they couldn't speak on the phone. The other thing that is so important is the cognitive effects of hearing loss. In addition to that, medical issues. When an individual with hearing loss goes to the doctor and they're getting all of these instructions about how to care for themselves, they do what I remember my little students did. When you're having a conversation, they're just shaking their head up and down. So that individual leaves the doctor's office not really knowing how to treat the illness that they have. In addition to that, we have to go back to that whole idea of hearing loss and how it causes many people to isolate themselves. I've seen that in my own family with some of my older aunts who didn't participate in family gatherings anymore because it was just too hard to communicate and listen in a very noisy background situation. So the first attempt to address hearing loss is usually a hearing aid for most people. But a hearing aid is really just a sophisticated microphone that's meant to make sounds louder. But making things bigger or louder is not always making them clearer for people. So as you can see in this picture, it might be really hard to predict what that picture really is. With better hearing and better technology, you would be able to see that picture or hear those sounds that are difficult for you to hear. So this is just an overview of what takes place in a cochlear implant system. It has two different components, the external component and the internal component. If you're around after all the presentations and you'd like to hear more about these, you can come up to my table and see them firsthand, and I can explain a little bit more about that to you. And here's a video that's going to show you exactly how our cochlear implant system works.
A cochlear implant system includes several pieces of technology that work together to of the high-fidelity CI microphones, which pick up sounds at the opening of the ear for the most natural listening experience. The processor, shown here, worn over the ear, converts the sounds into digital signals. The headpiece transmits the signals to the connected implant, which passes the electrical signal on to the CI electrodes in the inner ear. The electrodes then directly stimulate the hearing nerve. The hearing nerve receives signals from the implant and sends impulses to the brain, which interprets them as sounds. For people who no longer benefit from hearing aids, CI technology makes it possible to hear again, or for the first time. At Advanced Bionics, we believe everyone can live without the limitations of hearing loss. Connect with the moments you love.
I can really sum that up in one word. I think it's a miracle. Right, Mariella? Being able to give someone back that gift of hearing. So these are some of our signature technologies that we incorporated just a few years ago when we came out with our Marvel sound processor. The Marvel is based on AutoSense 3.0, which was developed by Phonak initially when they were creating their hearing aids. But AutoSense 3.0 is an operating system that actually allows the cochlear implant to make all the changes throughout the day by analyzing the environment that the individual is in. We also have MRI compatibility with our 3D system of magnets on the internal piece. We also have our T-mic, which was patented by Advanced Bionics. And the T-mic, if you have a chance to come and look, sits right outside the ear canal. And if you think about where we capture sound, that's where we capture sound naturally, right at the opening of the ear canal. So the T-mic has shown to increase speech perception by at least 40% in our recipients. The other great addition we made to our new Marvel sound processor was Bluetooth compatibility. I guess everyone can relate to that nowadays. Our system is able to connect with any Bluetooth-enabled device. Our recipients can have a telephone in their pocket or their purse and not even have to reach for their phone when the phone rings. So it's just amazing how we have made sound and hearing and communication so accessible to our recipients. We also have a waterproof system. So our recipients are able to go swimming in the ocean, in the pool, and enjoy their vacations with family members without worrying about not hearing while they're engaged in those activities. And then together with Phonak, we now have Roger technology. And if you're not familiar with that, many school systems use Roger microphones. So having Roger ready in our processor has made it very easy for those little ones. I just want to show you quickly because I think the 3D magnet system is amazing. It enables our recipients who need to have an MRI. And I guess if I asked for a show of hands, many of you would raise your hand saying, yes, I had an MRI. I know I have. I have 2 children. One rode horses, one was a flyer as a cheerleader. So MRIs are part of our family. But this is a little bit about how our system works. So you can see it's made up of a series of different magnets that during an MRI will rotate, and they will rotate in relation to each other as well. So there's absolutely no pull from the magnetic field, allowing that individual to go into the MRI machine and come out and put their processor back on. So no pain and no downtime from hearing. So it's kind of understandable why over 100,000 people have Advanced Bionics cochlear implants. But I think what's most important and why we do this is little Zoe. She was born profoundly deaf, and this is her day where she was activated.
Hi, Zoe. Zoe. Hi. Zoe. I love you.
So just to explain that a little bit more, Zoe, of course, was born without her hearing. She received a cochlear implant and then had to wait a few weeks before she was actually turned on the cochlear implant, and those were her reactions when that happened. So it's time for my ask. Yes, so I think it's very important, even if you don't know someone with a hearing loss, if all of you, from one day to the next, look at your friends, look at your family members. If they are struggling with hearing loss, refer them, encourage them to get support, because you don't want them to be isolating themselves from their family, their friends, and the rest of the world. And what I can give you is that support. If you have an individual that you know has a hearing loss that might be a candidate for a cochlear implant, look at our website, advancedbionics.com, or come and get my contact information, and I'm more than happy to support them on that journey.
Right up there. We gotta do a relay. Gotta do a relay. Toss it to him and he'll toss it up. There we go. All right.
Hey, thank you. This is kind of a twofer question. So would you describe the cochlear implant as an invasive procedure?
No, actually, and I hate to say this, but meeting with people who did get cochlear implants, one person said to me, it's the least bloodiest surgery you ever want to have. And it is not very invasive. Years ago, I used to be a teacher of the deaf and a speech and language pathologist. I guess I still am, but I'm doing this now. Surgery years ago may have taken 4 to 6 hours. Now the surgery can be anywhere from like 1 to 2 hours at the most. People go home the same day, and there's a small incision that's given just behind the ear, so you no longer even see a scar after the surgery. So to answer your question, no, it's not very invasive at all.
So what kind of future proofing does a device have? Like, in case you change the shape of the device, down the line, or as the person gets older and obviously their nerves and bones structure may change a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the wonderful characteristics of our implant is that the internal component is only using approximately a quarter of the memory capacity that it has. So that means even for a baby, for years and years and years to come, they are going to have access to upgradability, to new technology, which happens to change usually 4 to 5 years. And what that means is not another surgery, but just a visit to the audiologist.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Got it. Okay, some years ago, I saw a documentary film called Sound and Fury. You may know it, about the Artinian family. And it seemed like there was a resistance amongst the deaf community, and centered in Frederick, Maryland, to the adoption of cochlear implants, and that it would suppress the existing culture of signing. And I'm wondering if you have encountered any kind of resistance in the deaf community to the adoption of this, or has there been a thaw in that? And if you could describe.
I missed a little bit of your question,
Oh.
but
Okay. I was just saying that, you know the film I'm talking about. And so they, the stance they took was they felt that a cochlear implant was actually was counter to the existing culture
right.
of signing, that their child would lose the language they had, the signing language, and so to join the hearing community, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if you found any kind of persistent resistance, or what is the landscape like in terms of, say, Gallaudet or Frederick?
Yeah, you're definitely right. And that was a very popular movie that people saw, and we were just discussing this a little bit earlier, right? Yes, years ago, I mean, the cochlear implant is new. It has not been around for a long time. So the people were born many years ago profoundly deaf. So as time evolved, those individuals, developed their own deaf community, and they used ASL to communicate, and it was like their family, their neighborhood. And then all of a sudden comes along this cochlear implant. And from my perspective, in the field that I've been in, I trained to work with families to develop listening and spoken language. So it was hard for me years ago to think, how could we deny a small child the gift of hearing? But at the same time, I think it's just we talked about the MTA. It's all about respect. It's all about accepting the choices that people make. And I recently met with a young girl in her 20s who was born profoundly deaf. She had many friends who were deaf and used ASL, but she wanted a cochlear implant, and her friends were giving her a bit of a hard time. But she just explained it to them, saying, I really have nothing to lose, and I want to try this. So I think just as human beings, we have to keep an open mind about what choices people have made. And in my opinion, people have to make the choice that's best for themselves.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Do you suggest getting a cochlear implant if you're only deaf in one ear? If you're only deaf in one ear, do you think it's premature to get a cochlear?
That's a great question too, because years ago, they would not implant. The FDA has certain regulations that we as a company have to follow, and also cochlear implant centers have to follow those guidelines as well. But they now have approved the cochlear implant for single-sided deafness.
Okay.
Because we were born with two ears, correct?
Yeah, I
And
think I was.
people who have single-sided deafness usually fall through the cracks because they can hear fine on one side. So yes, people with single-sided deafness can now be implanted.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Jane.
Alrighty, next up, thank you, Jane. Joining us from Zoom from the sunny state of California, we have Tomer Aharoni. Tomer, are you with us?
I am. Hi, thank you for having me. Since I'm the first one to be joining over Zoom, can everyone hear me? Sounds good. I'm very jealous of you all that you're in New York, even though the weather here is better. I've been traveling for the last 2.5 months and I miss my small apartment in the city. So hopefully I'll be back soon. It's very nice to be here today. Thank you for having me. I'm Tomer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nagish. And before I get started, let me quickly share my screen so I can share some slides with you all. Okay. Perfect. So for those of you who are asking what Nagish is, Nagish means accessible in Hebrew. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're making communication more accessible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. The reason we're doing this is that today, if you're deaf, your only way to communicate is to rely on another person. That is either an interpreter or a stenographer. The way it works, you can see on the screen right now, you either use a landline device or your mobile device, and you're contacted with a call center of stenographers or American Sign Language interpreters that convert and translate between you and a hearing person. And we thought it was pretty insane. The year is 2023, and we really think that deaf and hard of hearing people should have access to direct and private conversations. But the problem is even bigger than that. There are nearly 500 million people in the world with hearing loss that require assistance when communicating. If you look at the enterprise world, almost 10% of calls to enterprise call centers are coming from customers who are deaf or hard of hearing. These calls take much longer to get to resolution, and they're very frustrating to both the customers and the agents. Human transcriptions are slow, expensive, and not private. To fix that, we created Nagish, which is an app that converts phone calls into text in real time, faster and more accurately than human transcribers. Nagish offers the only private, scalable, and independent phone solution for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. Before I keep going, I want to show you what Nagish looks like so you get a sense of what we built. So I'm assuming you can see my iPhone screen. I just launched the Nagish app. And you can see that it looks and feels pretty much like the phone app that you know. I'm currently on the dialer. I can call any number. I can listen to voicemails and read transcriptions using the Nagish captioning engine. I can call any one of my contacts and I can see my recent calls. When I'm calling someone, let's say United Airlines, as soon as they pick up, I'll be able to read
Thanks for calling
captions.
United Airlines. Is this your first name spelled T-O-M-E-R? Got it. Thanks. How can I help you? You can say flight status, mileage plus account servicing, or for everything else, including reservations and award travel, say representative, or just remain on the line.
So I'm hanging up just so I can keep speaking. What you just saw is me calling United Airlines. It's a completely regular phone call for me and for the other side. I'm using Nagish, meaning that I can read captions that, as you can see, are 100% accurate and are taking place in real time. They were able to recognize my name, Tomer, because when you place a call with Nagish, the call comes out of your existing phone number. This is very different from current relay providers that require people to maintain two phone numbers, one for texting and one for the relay services. Nagish allows users to link their existing phone number and enjoy the benefit. I don't think it's a benefit, it's actually a basic right to have the same phone number for calls and for texting. So jumping very quickly back to the slides. I have a few more screens here, but I don't think it's very necessary. I wanted to show you what the app looks like. And as I mentioned, it just feels exactly the same as the native phone app on your device. It's available for iOS and Android, and it's completely free of charge. This is another example of a call, calling Xfinity Mobile and asking for support. In the example here, there's no sound. And what's nice about Nagish, when you sign up, we personalize your experience based on your needs. So if you're deaf and you need to rely on the keyboard for communicating and rely purely on captions, that's fine. If you're hard of hearing and you can speak using your voice and you just want to read captions, you don't need to use the keyboard. You can use your voice. If you can hear to some extent, you can use the loudspeaker or connect to a Cochlear implant or to hearing aids. We support any type of combination for any speech or listening preferences. In addition, we have an enterprise product that is helping companies such as Comcast to interview and hire deaf and hard of hearing talent. It works very similarly to what you just saw, but it works as an add-on for Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and any other video conference tools, allowing deaf and hard of hearing candidates to interview by typing and reading instead of speaking and hearing. And we also have what you see on the screen right now is an add-on for call centers that allows deaf and hard of hearing customers to contact companies just like hearing customers would. And that's it. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions? Okay. Woo!
There you go. So I saw that you said that they have the option to use either text or they can speak when speaking with like an automated system. Does that only work when using like for example, when I'm calling like tech support, like a automated system, or would that work if there was another person on the other end?
Oh, absolutely. You can call anyone, friends, family, anyone in the world, any type of call, and it will support it. And our captioning engine is actually very accurate with different accents, different type of speakers. Feel free to try it, but you can call anyone.
I guess like a follow-up to that would be, if, for example, though, it's what intrigued me was the fact that they were able to like send a text like back. So let's say, for example, the person on the other end, right? They would have to be using the app, right? Or
No.
yeah.
So
So then how would that text come out through the other line? Would that be through like an audio message, or would they get like?
So you can think of Nagish just as a regular call. You call anyone, they don't need to install anything, they just get a call like they normally would. We convert text to speech. It's a very natural sounding voice. Obviously, it's computer generated, but the other side would just hear speech. So whatever you type is converted into speech that the other side can hear, and whatever they say is converted into text and you can read in the Nagish app.
Any other questions? Let's pass the box.
So I'm curious, the speech recognition and then I guess speech to text and then text back to speech technologies. Did you develop those in-house or did you start with something that's third party, like off the shelf, and you iterated and improved it in-house?
So when we started, we used an off-the-shelf solution. I'm not gonna share which one, not to name anyone, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't accurate enough, and it wasn't fast enough for phone calls. And we started thinking, how can we make this better? Luckily, both me and my co-founder Alon are coming from computer science backgrounds, and I'm coming from natural language processing backgrounds. And we came up with an optimizing solution. So we took existing engines and found a way to optimize them. Today, for the majority of the calls, we use our existing engine. When we can't provide an accurate enough solution, we use an external engine.
Thank you. 2-minute break just to give your brain time to process. I'm going to ask the people that are up on the audience to come downstairs. Please sit down. There is seating here. You don't have to stand up. So what we want to do is take 2 minutes, introduce yourself to the person right next to you as we wait for our courageous attendees to come downstairs and sit and get comfortable. And you could pass that box back to me. So we're going to start a countdown for you for just 2 minutes. All righty. So introduce yourself to the person right next to you. And if you know the person right next to you, find somebody that you don't know and let's make some new friends. Tamar, if you were still there, are you still there with me?
I'm here, yes.
We have an ask. Actually, guys, one thing, I'm sorry. Tamar, I'm sorry. Do you have an ask and a gift that you want to share with our audience before we proceed with the break?
My only ask that is, if you know deaf and hard of hearing people or people with speech impediments, please tell them about Nagish and ask them to share their feedback with us. We built Nagish with the community, and it's really important that we keep doing so.
Tomar, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
We just wanted to say thanks.
Of course.
Sorry about the ending.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We can do this. All right, friends. Hello. 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 Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for taking a minute to stretch, give your brain a break, and just kind of like take all of the information that we're just throwing at you. I hope that so far you have been able to take a few things here and there that you will be able to take to your organization. With that said, I also hope that you've met at least one person that you've connected with, maybe added them on LinkedIn, and you will follow up on the conversation after today. So next up, we have someone that's really, really special to me. We have Thomas Logan. He is actually one of the very first people that I met when I first began my accessibility journey. And we are so special, let me tell you guys, because he is joining us all the way from Tokyo, Japan. And he has made the time to be with us today to talk about equal entry. Thomas, are you good? Can you hear us? I think you're on mute, Thomas. Yeah, you're still on mute. Give us a second. Tech team, how are we doing? Are we good? Can you try talking? Yeah, he's still on mute. Thomas, do you have a secondary mic? Hmm. All right, Thomas, we're having a bit of technical difficulties. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to you. I will have the tech team figure out what is going on. Is that okay with you, Thomas?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Okay, that worked. That worked. Okay, Thomas, you are live.
Oh, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Oh, I'm live. Okay. Well, I'm Thomas, and hello from the future. It's Tuesday morning here in Tokyo, and nice to speak with you all. I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to present here. I did paste into the Meetup, or sorry, into the chat. Tech Thomas is how you can find me on social media, and yes, so thankful to Mariella and Doug for having me at this awesome event. I'm going to dive in just to what Equal Entry does. Our work is primarily working on helping people make their technology work for people with disabilities, and we do that typically through doing technical audits. So our process, and this is my New York street cred, I'm working, or I have worked in New York with Link NYC, so you've probably seen that. It's pretty hard to avoid seeing Link NYC somewhere in the city. So we work to help make sure that the device, it's actually an Android tablet device that works with those kiosks. We helped make sure that that was accessible to people with disabilities for New Yorkers. And we work on a wide range of technologies. I'm really interested in working on the challenging problems. We work on websites, applications, iOS, Android, Windows apps, Mac OS. I'm really passionate about virtual reality. And video games is becoming more and more of a thing that people are starting to consider for thinking about, hey, shouldn't everything in the world be accessible? I think so. We work with, in America, we benefit from having the Americans with Disabilities Act, which technically, everything in the legal system in America is open to interpretation, but the Americans with Disabilities Act has lately been able to be applied to technology much more easily via various lawsuits. So we work with our audits, we're informed by the Americans with Disabilities Act. We also work with WCAG, which has been mentioned already tonight, but the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And then also with the government, we work with things such as Section 508, which is America's federal law for accessibility. And in Japan, which I'm located in now, they have the JIS standard. So our process is typically, you know, if you were working with us or we were working with any new company, we go to the application, we go to the experience, and we figure out what does the experience have, what does someone actually do with the experience. And so this is actually a very human-centered process that we do, but I'm a big fan of like, keep it simple, stupid, KISS. You need to figure out first, like, what are the main things people do on your site or in your application or in your digital kiosk or in your virtual reality application, video game. You first go through what are the common tasks that people are doing inside of your application. And what you end up doing is identifying those into a set of scenarios. And Equal Entry company will set up a set of scenarios to say, these are the main things people try to do on your site. And before you start thinking about everything, let's first talk about like the priority or the primary things people do inside of your application experience. Then we list out those the steps to basically be successful doing that task or doing that scenario. So in this example, Equal Entry has a knowledge base where you can learn about accessibility. You can basically map this out as a sequence of steps. And what we want to do is, for example, analyze, can a user navigate through these steps without using the cursor? Like, can they do it only using the keyboard? So you would do step one, you would go to the e-learning page, which is this KB link on our site. Then you would access the quiz page. You would see that there's a knowledge check. You would actually select an answer from the knowledge check, and then you would submit the correct answer. And in our technical auditing process, we would typically say, well, first try to do an error, you know, select the wrong answer. Does someone using assistive technology or using tools get the notification that they made an error? Also, though, you want to make sure that someone receives a notification that they've been successful doing the task. And so this is, I think, sort of my life's work. Didn't set that up there, but I've been doing this for about 20 years at this point. And I'm really a fan of, let's make sure that the things that people do the most work first before we think about everything else. And unfortunately, in my experiences, I've found that there's so many problems in technology that having this kind of focus is the way to go. And that's why my consulting's been around that. We will typically break down issues into a report where we tell people, you have these blocking issues. And so on the screen here, I'm showing that in the 4 scenarios, there's 10 blocking issues. And I like the number 10, I like the number 15. I don't like the number 1,000 or 2,000 when talking to people about what to do for accessibility. I like to work in concrete, like real issues, and the blocking issues in our process would be, these are the things that are really making it very difficult for people with disabilities to use your site. And we want to remove those barriers first and kind of go in order from blocking to major to minor to advisory. We use a pretty visual process for how we communicate with people. And again, this is something I'm a big fan of. You know, might be a little aggressive to some people, but I like a big red arrow saying this fails or this isn't working to communicate both in text and visually when something's not working. So our process is, in addition to being showing source code and showing, you know, having good descriptions, we also just use a big red arrow a lot of times to say, hey, this is the thing that's not working. And when you work remotely, you work from Tokyo, you work from anywhere where you're not in the same time as people, we try to assist in minimizing the amount of communication that needs to happen to figure out what are we talking about when we're talking about what you need to fix. Here's another example of a button that says play, but it's actually replay. I think this might have been with a Vimeo video on our website. But again, when we do these audits, we do a very visual representation of what you need to go fix. Every issue that we report, we have either a video or a visual image that goes along with it to make sure that it's not lost in translation. Next, we go to an accessibility conformance report. And so again, this is very important for how accessibility happens, at least in the United States. Oftentimes this conformance report is what big corporations like Microsoft and I believe Walmart will actually ask companies that are trying to sell technical services to their company to show them, well, have you done any work for accessibility? And definitely the federal government in the United States, they're going to ask you, have you done any work for accessibility? This particular report is actually how you demonstrate the work that you've done. And so we will produce that for folks. Next, my goal is just, I don't want to give you a report and have you say, oh, that's great. We had our accessibility analyzed. Moving on to the next task. My company strives to say, if you work with us to have an audit, you also work with us to remediate and fix the issues. So the idea, keep it super simple again, but if we have those 10 blocking issues I mentioned, we'd really like you to have 0 blocking issues after 3 months. And maybe that's not your entire product, but we're actually trying to be real of like, what are the things people need to do on your application? Let's get that down, let's fix things. And then over time, let's keep repeating this process so that over time, your application becomes more and more accessible. And lastly, this is my ask for the group. I am a community organizer, and I know several people probably here in attendance from my meetup in New York City called A11Y New York City. That stands for accessibility. So A11Y is a numeronym, which stands for accessibility. And so I have a meetup in Tokyo, a meetup in New York City, and also a meetup in virtual reality. And I would encourage you, if you like any of the presentations that you've heard tonight, we're basically having monthly meetings from people all over the world presenting always on this topic of improving access for people with disabilities. Lastly, just to show here too, this is us in virtual reality. So, keeping it tied to the Equal Entry is a very technology-driven company. We do try to work inside of these new spaces, and we're trying to figure out how to make them accessible. So this is a screenshot of Mozilla Hubs, and we have captions displayed for our presenter. This is me, the host, with green eyes and a picture of myself on my shirt. And then we have our presenter over here at a kiosk presenting in virtual reality. And yeah, that's my ask. And my give is, if you write me on Tech Thomas, I will definitely be able to connect you with great resources in New York City for accessibility. I know a lot of people in New York City, and I will be back in New York City in May, and I hope to be able to meet you in person if we haven't met in person before.
Hey, Diego.
I am very, very excited to see you in May, Thomas. That said, questions for Thomas.
For not throwing. Love you, Thomas. We miss you here. I had a question. First of all, I'm so happy you're coming back. Second question I have, well, actually, that wasn't a question. The question I have for you is, what do you wish people understood about website accessibility, or what are some myths that we can bust with you right now? And before I pass the mic, I want to also say that Thomas did a really terrible job of talking about A11Y. The meetup is the largest accessibility meetup in New York City. It's where I met a lot of people here. So I want to recommend, we love, of course, New York Tech Alliance, but there's, I think it's a beautiful community that needs to be celebrated. So, okay, you're on.
Thank you. And yeah, I think the biggest misconception is that accessibility is just something that you do as just part of your process. And it's just sort of, oh, okay, we do an audit, or we, purchase this tool. But it's like, no, you actually have to do the work to fix the issues. And that's where the philosophy of my company has come from working for so long. You're doing okay, or you could do better. It's like, no, you have issues. Accessibility is not something that just happens automatically. You have to put work into it. And so I think that's my, that'd be my answer to that. It's like, it's not difficult, but it's like also, it doesn't just happen magically. You do have to care and put time and effort into making it happen.
Next question.
Hey, Thomas. First off, ohayou gozaimasu. Good morning to you. My question is, I guess, what tips would you say you would give to a person that's trying to specialize in accessibility for the web?
Sure. I mean, personally, like for actually receiving employment or working in the industry as finding jobs, I do like the IAAP, the International Association of Accessibility Professionals. They've created certifications that, some people feel negative about certifications, but I do believe that that's a great way to show that you have this baseline of knowledge. And there is actually a certification related to web accessibility. Another option is something called Trusted Tester, which comes from the US federal government, but that's also free to take. And that's another very long set of study, but it's a way to put the time in and then demonstrate you have the knowledge. So those would be two ideas. And then, as always, I think work with people with disabilities, have connections with people with disabilities, work together, make sure what you're working on actually benefits people. As mentioned by previous presenters, it's very easy, I think, in people in technology to think they're doing something that benefits people. And it's like, yeah, you should definitely be talking with the community and talking to people and making sure that what you're working on really does help.
We have got one more question for Thomas. Well, Thomas, I do have one question for you. I'm going to be in Japan this June, and I need you to help me make an itinerary. So I need to hold you to that. With that said, thank you so much, Thomas. Let's give a round of applause.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
I'm going to go right into our next presenter, Kevin Yu. You ready? All right, this is a piece of technology that I saw from the very beginning, so I'm very excited to see it.
Hello. Hi. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let's just wait till this thing goes. All right. How's everyone doing? It's still resizing, so my name is Kevin Yu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WearWorks, and we are a haptics company, and we make haptics for everyone. There we go. What is haptics? Haptic is touch. And my computer is frozen. Oh. Sorry, this is actually not the same. Haptic is touch. And what we know haptic as previously is mostly through notifications on our phones, and that's pretty much it. And obviously, VR and AR is exposing a lot more to it to this time, but this is kind of like what our head goes to when you think about the word haptics to this day. And touch-based information, what we believe, is a universal language. That's why we're building it from this technology base up. As we know, the world is not very accessible, and we've realized this the hard way. The useful and effective methods to also embed new haptic sensations into technology is also very difficult. We also learned this the hard way. And with the bandwidth super spread out for sighted and people without. So what is the technology that really pierces through your attention to get to the point, and especially for tools like navigation? So that's why we started developing our haptic SDKs, which starts to divide and places itself on top of haptic health, haptic gaming, haptic navigation, and haptic health. So really, we're creating a sandbox for ways to create new sensations through touch that could be a universal language for everyone. And we really started with revolutionizing navigation with our haptic nav SDK. So what this does is that it literally gives you vibrational feedback when you're going the right direction. And as you deviate off, the vibration gets stronger. So really, it's a haptic compass. And we have the full pants around haptic navigation, starting with haptic compass and haptic nav and down the line. And this technology is going to kind of change the way that we get around, smarter city-wise. So safer routing, everything is based on efficiency of time. We're now combining information through noise, construction, etc., to make routes safer for people who are blind. For indoor and outdoor spaces, a lot of new data is coming through, and the capability on top of haptic information could really change the game. And now we're making it easy for you to develop it for even video calls. Noise levels change. You can feel the intensity of it through haptics. This is all plausible. And this is what we believe is accessible design. So this is our app. It's free. We made it free intentionally so that everybody in the organizations that we work with for the past 8 years can have it and download it right now and start using it. And we partner with more big companies in order to get the return on investment. But we really wanted to make this free. And who are we? We made history in 2017 by guiding the first runner who is blind in the New York City Marathon, completely using our haptic technology. I was actually there running with Simon because I had to make sure the technology was going okay. It was our first time doing such a big, event. I had to train for it, and it was hard. So all in all, this was one of the biggest events of my life and of our company journey. And from there, it really put us on the map as the leaders in haptics and also leaders in pushing barriers for accessibility and technology. And after that, I started working with a lot of Paralympic athletes. So I had 3 gold medal Paralympic athletes training with our device to run independently, because right now you need to have a guide literally tethered for Achilles International and across the board if you're running with as a sighted runner with a blind runner. So I wanted to kind of break that, literally untether that, the point of content that's not truly really accessible or inclusive designed. So this is the reason why I started. Marcus Engel is my friend that became blind when I was in college. And he told me after a year of rehabilitation that Google Maps and Apple Maps are not accessible. And what else is there really, right? So I started working with Marcus. I invited him. I started an inclusive design group. And we thought about ways to make things better for the world, not just cool cars and boats. So Marcus really influenced my life. And when I went to really deep dive with him about the accessibility world, communities, NFB, all the above, this is really where it started. He told me, hey, audio feedback is not very great. It literally distracts me from the immediate proximity detection of the cars and people around me. That's my safety. And so if I'm sacrificing safety, that's really the worst way to get around with confidence. So touch was really the answer. This was the beta that we really started from. This is before Apple Watch days, so I had to create my own wearable device because we needed a speaker, right? Everybody makes music, you need a speaker. We make haptic, we need an output for haptic, sensations. So I had to create a haptic wearable device that could communicate the language that we're producing. And the app itself vibrates through your smartphone. We had to really push the boundaries with Apple for that, and we have accomplished that. Now we're doing with Google. And this has gone, pretty far and wide in terms of international exposure. So here's a core model of our business now is really we're making a haptic lab that allows for people to enable their technology to adapt haptics into their systems very easily. It could be for navigation, but it could also be for audio apps. It could be for specifically deaf populations needing translations. If somebody says your name, it could go right directly into giving you haptic feedback to notify that you've been called, right? Imagination really can go far with haptics because it's been so rudimentary for so long. So where are we now? We're partnering with big companies like Apple, Alphabet. We're doing 3 pilots with them, with Waymo. So Waymo is very much into inclusive wayfinding into their cars. There's no driver. Who are you going to call? So you now can use haptic guidance to get yourself to the car, get in, and go. Other ways, Guidelines team, they're a group of software developers at Google. They're fantastic, and we've been meeting with them a lot. And they're excited about combining their technology at Google and ours to really promote accessible tracks and parks. So pretty much it uses computer vision, adapted with our haptics to guide you. And the third one is with the hardware device. These are very selective that I give to partners. And we're giving them to Ghana, where 50 athletes from Ghana are going to be using this to find stores, places, and athletes will use them to train. I'm really excited about that. We did a thing with Verizon for Good, specifically for accessibility, that really got us a lot of knowledge around 5G. So we know that this is not us flying new satellites into the air and making navigation better for everyone. We need to partner with big companies to do that. So we make sure that we're on the forefront here of the safety and reliability of navigation, and we really adapt the haptics into it so that we can provide the inclusive navigation for really everybody. And Apple Maps, of course, we worked with them they sponsored us for the marathon. Waymap indoor navigation companies, if there's some companies out here that do this and really care about indoor nav, we want to work with you. We don't want to be competing. We want to literally embed our haptics into your database, into your system, to allow the communication with people and technology to be better. And Disney parks, we're talking with them about making all the parks in the world they own accessible, inclusive using haptic tech. Yeah, and haptics is growing, and so is accessibility, which is super exciting. And all around navigation, everything is going to really kind of come to a pinnacle point where accuracy, accessibility, and haptics will really kind of come to a conjunction. And that's what we're hoping for here. We're creating here. Our timeline is really exciting. We're finally getting to Android side. Actually, our head of Android developer, he is visually impaired, and they've been working with me for many years to make sure that our app is fully inclusive and accessible oriented. And as we work with Google, we work with a lot of accessibility teams out there, and we compare notes to make sure future is very much inclusive. And wearable devices, I don't have to make them anymore because Apple Watches and OS devices are out there. I can use the haptics on their end and really hit the impact a lot bigger. And that's what I'm going for. So I'm the CEO. Keith is my co-founder and chief haptic officer. He is the master of all things touch. And Enzo is really going for the new pilots and the verticals for B2B. And our advisors are consisting of chief business officer at Waymo in the previous years, and also a partner at Deloitte and a CTO at a tech company. Thank you to people that have supported us. We do have an ask, and no, we do not use SVB, but we are completely safe on that. But we are raising a round. We've already have a lead investor, and if you are an investor in this room, I would love to talk to you. And this is how we became to be the leading industry of haptic technology in this world. Thank you.
Where is the square? Okay, questions for Kevin? People are speechless.
So Mariella's gonna take a drink of water. Okay, we'll introduce our next presenter, Adam Jones of Zeer. Zeer is the next revolution in personal safety. We always have your back.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I can think of all types of ways that my company could use haptics, so that was pretty cool. There is a lot of ways to go there, for sure. And I suppose if I can have my screen on there. That's it. So I am Adam David Jones. I'm the creator of Zeer. Zeer is your personal safety technology. And why I care about this is because 7 years ago, this month, I was violently attacked and almost killed. And the guy who attacked me was picked up by police in under an hour, actually under 20 minutes, covered in my blood with my money in his pockets, open and shut. Oh, and he threatened to rape my friend right before the police got there. Well, about a year after I woke up from a coma, he represented himself at a trial and he was acquitted by a jury. It still flabbergasts me, to be honest. At that moment, as soon as they said the words not guilty, I knew that something in my life had changed. I knew I was going to try to find a way to help this from happening to anybody else. But I wanted to do it at scale, so I started a technology company. And that's how I began the process of building Zeer. And at first I thought, this is really rare, right? How many people get caught covered in blood, money in a pocket? 80% of violent crime in this country is not solved. 80%. 4 out of 5 violent criminals walk around after they hurt somebody else. So this problem's a lot bigger than me and a lot bigger than I had ever expected. This is my friend Saida's story. She's a deaf entrepreneur. And I think that she can explain it better than I can. I was told I had to fix these outputs. I think I did. Let's see if this works. Her experience is different than mine. That's important. So that's Saida's story. As a deaf person who travels for work all the time, she is in danger and she doesn't have a solution. Well, Zeer is one of the solutions. Now, there are several solutions out there. We have a follow me feature that allows your family and friends to see you in real time where you are. And if you activate Zeer, you can do it with your voice or by just touching a button on your phone. It calls 911 automatically, live streams audio, video, location, health data to first responders who partner with us, and saves that same data to the cloud so you can prosecute your attacker later if need be, and shares all that information with your family. But these are table stakes. Angry hippos in Alaska. That's my secret safe word and phrase. You can see how Zeer would work in real time. You see where I am on the map. All that data is automatically streamed to the cloud, to my emergency contacts. I push another button and it calls 911. Now, I have been having some computer issues, so I will have to use a Loom video that I did recently. I can't share it with you right away. He's got a very good voice.
And that is the deterrent alarm. There you can see
Buddy Walk right now, that's a way to passively allow your friends and family to know where you are in real time. And you can see exactly where Hussein is. And of course, you can stop location sharing whenever you want. Whenever Zeer is fully activated, it starts to live stream your location and audio emergency contact. Here, he is going to create a new group. You have different groups for your family, friends, your girlfriends, depending on where you need people to keep an eye on you. Whenever you activate the buddy walk feature, that group will see where you are as long as you want them. And now we just make sure that it's working. It is. We'll try deleting one of the groups. It does. Back to the screen. This is the settings page. This is if you want to sign up for a 911 subscription. You can also create stacks. This might be a little too thorough. That is our. We are GDPR compliant, but I don't think you need to know all this. I was going to just live stream, but my computer is having hiccups and I don't want to waste your time. So let's move on to the important thing. This was just table stakes. This is not going to get us to win. This is not going to help everybody in the world. Over the last several years, we've done extensive customer research and we realized, yeah, people would love to put away their attacker, but what they really want is not to be hurt in the first place. And that's why the next generation of Zeer is preventative technology. So what if you're in a high crime neighborhood you've never been, like I was? I had no idea. If there's an active shooter in the building or down the block, what if you could be alerted to that information? And what if there was a way to use AI to tell you that your demographic of person, this place, this city, this day, this time is not a good place for you to be? So Zeer tries to steer you away from danger using simple AI technology. And if we can't steer you away from danger, we automatically call 911 with, we call it awareness kernel. So it autonomously wakes up the phone, dials 911, shares your location, video, health data, et cetera, as I said before. The vision is we would call this personal safety as a service. It would be tied into all the smart city infrastructure, like shot spotters, the cameras in London, et cetera. And when activated, it can send help more quickly than what it is now. It's generally 10 minutes plus in the United States. One day, I really want to be able to walk down a street in the city I have never been and no longer worry about my safety. That should be the future. You should be free to be yourself anywhere you want, any time of day. And that's the world that I want to build. Thank you. I'd love to take some questions. Where's that box thing? Oh, shucks. I'm sorry. My ask is, I've been on this soapbox for a little while, but I need an influencer and somebody on my advisory board that has skin in the game. I've reached out to celebrities and people that are influencers in the space, if they're the chief of police in LA, et cetera. But I'm looking for somebody to help amplify this message so we can reach more people and help more people more quickly. My other ask is, we are trying to run pilots in campuses in small communities, talked to Miami-Dade County last year, and late last year, we talked to a lot of campuses. They're surprisingly very receptive to this kind of technology on campus. But to do all this, I had to take what we have as a prototype and get to market, because this is not a game. It has to work 1,000% of the time, every time. And the prototype is not enough for me to deliver this technology and tell people it's going to save your life. So we need to raise a pre-seed round right now. And if you're interested, we're raising on a fairly decent valuation cap, and you can talk to me afterwards. And my offer is go to our website, download the product. At the very minimum, you can test it and have a good time. And you can record all kinds of videos on it free of charge. And then my other ask would give me feedback on that. Appreciate it. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I hope that you will continue to invest in this. I know you're not, but I'm very, very excited to see how you continue to build on this technology to make our world safer. Last but not least, we have Adriana Mallozzi joining us from Boston, Massachusetts. Adriana, are you online?
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, girlfriend, you are up. So Adriana is the founder of Puffin Innovation, and she will tell you all about this technology. Adriana, go for it.
Okay, give me 1 second. Hi, everyone. I wish I was there because there's so many people that I actually know. And it would have been great to see you in person. Alrighty. So hi, I am. Oh, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So hi, I'm Adriana Mallozzi, founder of Puffin Innovations. And at a really young age, I learned early on that tech would be the key to my independence. And so that is why I developed Puffin. Because people with significant physical disabilities have limited access to mobile devices and computers, leading to greater inequities in education and employment. So how many people are there? Well, according to the research station, there are over 5 million with paralysis. That is our initial focus. And out of those, about 2.25 million are assistive tech users and could benefit from our technology. As you can see, only 19% go on to higher ed. Approximately 84% are unemployed, and nearly 18,000 new spinal cord injuries occur annually. And also about $150 billion is lost in tax revenue annually due to the lack of people with disabilities in the workforce. And individuals with physical disabilities are even further hampered by the physical inability to interact with new technologies, resulting in the displacement of such workers. So what is the solution? Well, it is Puffin. We have created a hands-free, mouth-operated wireless solution. With our cutting-edge tools, people with physical disabilities can finally realize their full potential and thrive in their communities, from conquering the classroom to dominating the workforce. Nothing will stand in their way. And so how it works is, I don't know if you can see, I don't think you can see my pointer.
You can,
But to the left of the image is the joystick, and that has mesh connectivity, so it connects via Bluetooth to your smartphone or computer. And as a result, you can then control anything using that. We also have an app that goes with our device. So a user has complete control of the device, such as settings, such as speed, sensitivity, etc. In the shaft of the joystick, we have two different sensors. So one is a pressure sensor. Another one is optical or photo. So it senses the differentiation in light. And in the app, you can set what you want each of those sensors to do. And that helps with left and right clicking. So our device basically acts as a Bluetooth mouse. And that is how it works. And so for me, as you can see in this image, I have a screenshot of my smartphone with all of my home automation apps. And then there is an image of me opening my apartment door so I can easily open the door with my device. And then there's a screenshot of Uber, so I can request an accessible Uber. Also, with some of the previous presenters, such as the NTA, we envisioned the future of Puffin interacting with smart cities. So I can go and purchase my train ticket and call, let the train conductor know that I will be boarding the train and I have a wheelchair. I can call an elevator with it, open a door to a business that I frequent. Or when autonomous vehicles finally become accessible, actually drive for the first time. And that is what we are really excited about here at Puffin, is really thinking about the future and how we can help people with physical disabilities lead the fullest and most independent life. I did have a video, but it's not working. So I'm having technical difficulties today, and so I can't really show the video. But that's about it, pretty much. My ask is, Mariella mentioned the A11Y conference or A11Y conference. And that is happening in April. And we would love all of you who presented tonight to share what you're developing, what you're creating, and also support us. Holding an fully accessible conference, it's 3 days, costs a lot of money. And so if you are so inclined, please visit a11yconference.com and you can make a contribution to support our conference. So I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Adriana. Questions for Adriana? There's the box. Who has the box?
Hey, Adriana, how are you?
Is that Adam? I can't really see who's there. Hi. I can't hear you.
check. 1,
It's-
2. Check.
Yeah, now it's better. Okay.
Okay. Puffin can interact with any type of software. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So like your safety app Zeer would, our device would definitely work with that. So if someone like myself could have that app on my phone and I could definitely use it if I needed to, if I were in a very dangerous situation. So
Okay.
yes,
But it could also just you plug right into the NTA system.
it could plug into anything. So I'm super excited about seeing that. And I think it was called what? NY Link. I think it was that Thomas was talking about.
Yeah.
So our device, yeah, would work with that as well.
All of it.
Hey, I just wanted to say hi too. Hey, Adriana, remember me? We're part of.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Good to see you.
I guess my question is, how are you doing, and what was the biggest kind of expedited or big jumps that you made since the Verizon accelerator?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Kevin and I were in the same cohort at Verizon. And I think you basically said it. Our device also incorporates machine learning and AI, and there's a lot of data for that. Our device is one of the very few assistive tech devices that actually conform to the user instead of the other way around, where typically assistive tech devices, the user has to conform to it. And so with all that data going, back and forth, we're definitely taking advantage of the 5G technology to really streamline our AI and machine learning aspect of our tech. And also our tech advisors were just phenomenal, and they really helped us start the groundwork for the collection of data and analyzing it. So that, Verizon really pushed us forward in that aspect. So thanks for asking.
That's awesome. And what's your ask?
Oh yeah, and well, I think I mentioned that. Our ask is that you check out a11yconference.com. And we would love some of you or all of you to join us, especially those of you who have developed technology for people with disabilities, to showcase that technology during our conference, because it's all about accessibility. The conference is April 25th through the 27th. It's virtual, so you can be anywhere in the world. Thomas is going to be one of our panelists at the conference. So really excited. So check it out.
Alrighty, thank you so much to all of you for being here with us today. I will leave you with some parting words. Do what you can, where you are, with what you have. All of you have been equipped with tools, resources, connections. Use them. You have the power to create a more accessible world for all of us. And just a reminder, people with disabilities, the community of people with disabilities is a community that any one of us can join at any time. And it is a community that all of us will become a part of if we have the privilege of getting older. So by creating that future now, we are creating the future for our future selves. Take action, do what you can, where you are, with what you have. Thank you so much, Doug, for being able to create this space. And with that said, we are done. I'm going to pass it on to Doug, who has some closing thoughts, and then that's it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Mariella. Wow, amazing tech, but even more amazing people behind the tech. Before we go back to networking, I just want to put it out there for anyone in the community to put out their own Ask Offer. Gian, did you want to say a few words? I think we need the catch box mic on.
Hello. Oh,
There we
much
go.
better. Okay, well, first of all, I'm just so proud to be on the New York Tech Alliance board. And I just wanted to say, you know, a lot of what I do, so I'm Sean or Shion Horn for anyone who hasn't been hearing my many questions tonight. And I feel that the wonderful thing about the Tech Alliance, a lot of what I talk about is allyship, what we get wrong, what we get right. But I think what is so beautiful about the Tech Alliance is I can tell you from the inside that the board cares, Doug cares, everybody here I can tell with all the questions cares. And more than that, we're taking our caring into action spaces. And so I just want to celebrate everyone that's here. It's an act of allyship to be here, especially, you know, thank God it's such great technology. So it gave us patience. I know that you don't normally have 8 presenters, but I love the diversity of what we're seeing here. And I'm more hopeful than ever that great things are going to come out of this, but we have to make a commitment to make it more than just talking. Talk is cheap. Talk is a great place to start, but it's really about, you know, and actually you did ask me, Doug, to talk a little bit about Give Beauty Wings. And Give Beauty Wings is my nonprofit, which is all about putting our gifts and our beauty to action. And my commitment is to foster leadership in the disability community. And that starts with tech, with transportation, with fashion, with beauty, all of it. All of us, everybody here is shifting culture with what we build. My wonderful friend, Judy Human, who is the reason we have the 504 and the ADA, her example is with us in this. I was thinking about when she passed this past week, that she's really like Edison or Ford in literally changing the way the world is built. And I was thinking about that before this, because everybody here is changing the way the world is built. And so I just want to say that I'm here as an ally to all of you developers. I'm here as an ally for all human beings. And I'm just so grateful that the New York Tech Alliance asked me to serve on their board 2 years ago. I didn't know what I was getting into, but the more that I get into it, the more that I want to know these wonderful people. And I can tell you they're the real deal. Okay, I'll pass the mic now.
Thanks, Shia. Anybody else? Okay, we are adjourned. Feel free to go back into the lounge and eat, drink, be merry, and meet one another. Thanks for coming.